Oh. Hi, friends. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Ashley Aireonna, joined by the wonderful and breaking news man, Marco from Clutch Team Sports. Hi, Marco. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I can't complain. Work's been going good. Life's been going good. Can't complain.
Do you have
How are you
fun
doing?
weekend plans besides
No,
retweeting Brandon Aiyuk shit all day? Or
we're actually house sitting, so probably gonna go swimming. So,
oh yeah, are you?
the house we're watching has a pool, so excited about that.
I know you've told me before, but you're close to the Bay Area, right? Is it hot there?
No, Central Valley.
Oh, okay.
Central Valley.
I'm
Yeah.
just wrong. I'm just completely. I want to bake a pie,
Ooh.
like a blackberry and peach pie, and I have the filling. And for some reason, I lost. Like I know last summer with my dad, I made like a ton of pies, but I forgot the recipe, and I'm gluten free. And I was googling recipes, and I did it so wrong. And I like, when like the dough is supposed to be doughy. Mine, like it said, like put in like after you put in the cold butter, you're supposed to put in 3 tablespoons of ice cold water. And I like didn't have a tablespoon because I do everything just eyeballing it. I do that with all the ingredients, but I like definitely dumped in like half a cup of water, which I think is way more than I was supposed to. So I'm hoping that by setting in the fridge, that'll work it out. If not, I'll make those turn those into cookies, and I'll try to look up a different recipe really quick. Papa J, regular, says, "What's up, faithful?" Hi, Papa. But aside from I'm baking a pie because I'm celebrating the 49ers, who just had, the end of a long off season, potentially not
It ain't
completely
over.
over, but
It ain't over.
not over, but the biggest storyline all offseason was Brandon Aiyuk, and he is now a $120 million man, $30 million per year for people who didn't see yesterday, $76 million guaranteed. Brandon Aiyuk got freaking paid, which congratulations to him. Very pro player, think you need, NFL short, get as much money as you can. Marco, why did the 49ers wait all offseason, not have Brandon Aiyuk participate in OTAs, not have him participate in training camp, not have him play in any of the preseason, not get those valuable reps with Brock Purdy, not be a leader to Jacob Cowing and the rookies who, are showing out, but doesn't hurt to have a great mentor in the room. Why did they not pay Brandon Aiyuk if they were going to end up paying him $30 million a year, which is the St. Brown deal? And if I'm
It's
correct,
better than the St. Brown deal though, because he's getting
is
more
it?
guaranteed. Yeah, he's already getting more guaranteed.
Okay, that's interesting because I heard that before my show yesterday, but then someone in my chat was saying St. Brown has 77 million guaranteed. Is that
So
wrong?
so you got to remember that's total guarantees, right? Like,
Oh,
so
okay.
total guarantees are different than what is guaranteed at signing, right? So when you
That's so
look at
annoying.
Amon-Ra's contract has only $16 million signing bonus. So his guaranteed is 34 million. So he's not guaranteed drastic numbers over the first couple of years of that contract.
Yeah, 34 million is like 1 year basically.
Yeah, so like they have an opt out like right away on that contract where essentially it's like a 1 or 2 year contract. Based on how it's structured, obviously they'll probably keep pushing money down the line. BA is getting $47 million over the first 8 months of this contract. So from now to April 2025, he's getting $47 million guaranteed. So already there, that's already more money than was guaranteed to Amon-Ra. So it is a little bit different. It's not the same exact contract that Amon-Ra got. Obviously, the numbers are pretty similar, right? 76,
But that just
77.
makes the 49ers look worse. If months ago, apparently, Brandon Aiyuk was willing to take the St. Brown deal, and instead the 49ers lost critical months that Brandon Aiyuk could have been practicing, and then ended up paying him more than $15 or 15 more than 15 million more in fully guaranteed money. Why did they do that? Why didn't they just offer the St. Brown deal right then when his agent and other people were going on KNBR and 95.7 The Game and saying, hey, if they were offering him this, Brandon Aiyuk would accept it. Why did they? And you could let me know, because I know that I'm not asking for your sources, but I know that you have some inside knowledge for anyone who's tuning in and didn't know. Brendan Aiyuk. Marco did tweet out the Brandon Aiyuk deal was done about an hour before Adam Schefter or anyone else did. So big congratulations on Marco for getting that scoop. Wanted to give him his credit there. But from what I heard as just a general fan, Matt Mayoko, different people letting out things, I heard in May he was offered, I heard both things, 24 and 26 million. And then up until August, I heard that they had not done any additional negotiations with him since that initial extremely low ball offer, when considering at that same time Jalen Waddle, who's, a number 2, and Jalen Moore were getting 28 million. So they guys who Brandon Aiyuk has far outperformed were getting paid 28 million, while the 49ers were apparently offering him 24. Now, my thing was, I thought that the 49ers were never going to go above 28 million. And so they were willing to have this whole offseason drama because they were going to save themselves some money. But then the deal came out and they paid him more than he was initially asking for back then. Why did they do it this way? And what are we missing as fans? How did they get to this ginormous contract? And why did it take so long if they were going to end up giving in? It's not like the 49ers, in my opinion, won the deal, whatever you want to say that is.
Yeah, when you look at the Brandon Aiyuk situation, right? Like everyone talked about Brandon Aiyuk and how everything was playing out. I was told back during that March time, like right before the draft, that the offer that they had on the table was a $24.5 million contract, right? And obviously, if you look at the market, like that's kind of what the market was at the time. But the issue is Brandon Aiyuk knew the market was going to blow up because there's so many receivers being in their last years of their contracts. All of these guys talk. Like it's not like Brandon Aiyuk doesn't talk to other receivers, right? Like they're all in group chats. They're all friends with each other. Like they all communicate. And he wanted around 26, and the Niners wouldn't budge off of 24.5. And when they would give him offers, it was never official offers. It was always, hey, on the phone, hey, we're willing to offer you this. Well, it's like, then offer it. Like, right? Like, if you're telling me, well, just offer the contract. Receivers started signing. That 24 looked like shit.
Yeah.
Brandon Aiyuk felt disrespected. He always wanted 26. And that's where it was kind of interesting because he wanted 26 million. If they would have offered it from the beginning, he would have signed at 26 million. He was willing to do that. And then he saw all these other contracts signed, and he's like, wait, hold up. I'm just as good as that guy. I'm better than that guy. That guy was getting more. Nah, this is where my market is. So then he was willing to sit down and negotiate with the Niners. Obviously, what he did for the 49ers is actually team friendly in a way. Taking a big signing bonus. Obviously, he puts money in your pocket now. It's what players want. They want that money in their pocket. But it allows the 49ers to have his cap hits being low over the next couple of years. So, yes, he does take a little bit more guaranteed because of the signing bonus and everything like that. It's going to be a bigger signing bonus. Now, at the end of the day, it wouldn't have been done. I know Adam Schefter tweeted August 12th or August 10th. He kept changing his dates because he doesn't know what he's talking about. Let's be honest with it. He doesn't know what he's talking about. The issue was guaranteed money, and Brandon Aiyuk also wanted an extra year, and that's what they were negotiating for a long time. It was never Brandon Aiyuk had this offer on the table and he was just going to randomly sign it because he wasn't going to show up and they're threatening with fines. Like, okay, well, hey, Niners, I love how you guys like to talk to the media because the Niners weren't planning on fining him because he's on his 5th-year option. If they would have fined him, they would have waived those fines like they do with any other player.
They weren't waivable or something.
When you're on your 5th year, when you're on your 5th year contract, when you're on your 5th year, there are some that are waivable. So they would have most likely given him fines that are waivable, and they would have waived any fines that he had. The Niners would have been in a situation you got to set precedent in terms of how you treat players. People around the NFL notice this. Again, the numbers, guaranteed numbers, were not what they were. The signing bonus was not what it was. August 12th. If that would have been the case, he would have signed that this exact contract he would have signed if it was offered early August. So I don't know why the Niners decided to go to the media and make it look like we won. No one cares if you won or lost. Truthfully, no one really does. Like, the people who care are people who are evaluating your contracts. And truthfully, nobody cares because you got your best receiver back on the roster. You think people were looking at the Vikings and saying, you guys overpaid for Justin Jefferson? That contract is ridiculous. It is ridiculous.
I understand that. What I understand that the idea of what should be considered a winning the contract is getting the best player on your team during a Super Bowl run. What I'm not understanding is you're saying this deal wasn't on the table earlier. And my question is why? Like, why did they decide that it was worth it to them? Like, to me, if you were going to wait this far, then you should have just made him sit out a game and forced him to play on his fifth-year option. It's absolutely ridiculous to finally capitulate and just give him everything he wanted at the last minute. Like, if you knew that you were going to do that, why not do it before training camp so that he's in football shape for week 1, so that he has those valuable reps with Brock Purdy? And I think that Aiyuk is like a professional and is training on his own, but we've seen from others.
He was training at the facility.
What?
He was actually training at the facility.
I know, but
behind closed doors, behind when media wasn't around, when everything wasn't around, Brandon Aiyuk trained at the facility multiple times.
I did know that he was like in the building lifting weights there, but Kyle Shanahan, and maybe he lied, but went on record and said that he hasn't caught any passes at the 49ers facility.
Not passes, working out. Yeah. Never passes or anything like that. He was working out.
And so I guess what I'm confused about is like, why would you chance your wide receiver not being in like football specific shape? Whether or not he's in shape or not, I'm not questioning. But why? Like, does that make sense? Like, I feel like at this point they should have not paid him. Like, I mean, maybe it's like, your eyes are big, but like, you should have offered this earlier then.
So what happened was,
like, why would you go to the last minute and then end up giving in and just giving him everything he wants?
Because the Niners are planning. That's what happened.
I don't want people to be misconstrued. I wanted them to pay him. I just don't understand like
why their thought process of it.
Yeah, it makes no sense.
What they were trying to do is this entire time they wanted to keep their options open because it's always been either BA or Brandon or BA or Debo, right? Within the next year. And if Brandon Aiyuk wasn't able to get a contract signed, they were willing to move him and just keep Debo Samuel next year and get him on an extension. So that was their thought process. If they could get another receiver in here that is cheaper, can produce at a high level, then they would do it. Remember when people talked about the 49ers or not 49ers, the 3-team 49ers and like getting another team involved. NFL wasn't letting that happen. Remember when I talked about how they were going to be wanting to finesse the 49ers if they let that happen? They offered a 3rd rounder for Kirtland Sutton, and they called around with other teams too. It wasn't going to happen. That was always out the picture. So the Niners are always just trying to keep an option open for them. To me, it doesn't make sense why they did that. Yeah. Now, when I'm looking at everything, what I find most interesting about this is how the 49ers decide to operate, right? Like it's on their timeline because keeping the doors open for everything, right? Like that's their mentality.
That didn't help them.
It doesn't help them, and that's the way the Niners.
Star wide receiver, like we just said, like winning, quote quote, winning the deal could just be getting your star player on the field. But we have a comment here that's saying by week 3 this won't matter. Well, maybe, but it might, because for Nick Bosa it mattered, for Debo Samuel it mattered, and it was affecting them all the way until week 3 and far beyond, by the way, because they didn't get into football specific shape. So what I'm saying is like, I feel like going into this offseason, the 49ers should have had like already made up their mind. We are going to pay Aiyuk whatever it takes within reason, like according to the market. And we're going to get him on the field and training with us and training with our other guys, being a role model to the young guys, building that connection with Brock Purdy. And we're going to have him all offseason so he's ready to freaking go week 1. And it's worth it to us to pay whatever we need to pay for that to happen. or we're sticking to a number and we're not going to go above this number and we don't care what the market does. And if that it never ends up working, then we're going to call his bluff and try to make him sit out a game. And we believe we can win it without him. Like, they should have chosen which strategy they were going to go with. I was always pro give Aiyuk the money now. Like, I don't want people to get misconstrued. I'm not mad that they paid him. I'm mad that they paid him after training camp when you and I and every analyst or even typical fan said, hey, he's probably asking for about 30 million. He's probably asking, earlier this offseason, they probably could have paid him less. Earlier this offseason, we were saying 28 million probably gets it done. 28 probably gets it done. But they sat on their ass from July to August, 12th or 10th or whatever the fuck day they want to say it was, and then decided to up their offer because they got cold feet and were like, oh,
I 100% agree with you. I 100% agree with you in that aspect, right? Like, when you're looking at that, like, they could have given him this offer to start training camp and he would have signed it, right? Like, we know he would have signed it, obviously, because this is a contract that he signed. This contract wasn't adjusted because of any other contracts since then, right? Like, people were like, oh, maybe it's because of CD. It wasn't because of CD. None of that. This contract is what they should have offered to start training camp. He would have signed. He would have been there. And I 100% agree with you. Yeah. For some reason, I don't know why the Niners did. Like, they seriously thought they could get him at a lower number, and they were never going to get him at that lower number, right? Like, even August 12th, that's towards the end of training camp, right? Because technically,
like for them to be like
towards the end of training, and not necessarily end of training camp, but like
that doesn't make them look good.
Watching.
Like, I like that they put out that report to try to like make it seem like Aiyuk has been like fucking around for 3 weeks. When I heard that report, I'm like, this doesn't make you look good. Like, even if this has been on the table since August 10th, which Brandon Aiyuk's agent has already came out and said that's a lie. But even if that was true, I don't look at BA for waiting another 3 weeks. I look at you for waiting until August fucking 10th.
So what's crazy too is, I don't know if you remember, was I live with you or was I live with someone else? But I know at least on my channel, I talked about it a little bit. The day of Dwight Clark Day, when Jed York and a lot of the 49er alum were there, Jed York was pissed. Like, who was I on with? Might have been Jesse. What day was Dwight Clark Day? Let me see. I'll tell you exactly. I'll tell you who I was on live with. It was a 7th. I was on live with Jesse because it was a Wednesday. So I was on either live with Jesse or Rohan. So I had talked about this. Like, hey, look, I heard this from multiple people in the building. Jed York was mad because the receivers couldn't separate that day at all. Not even Debo. They were struggling to separate. Some of the alum were talking about it. Like, whoa, they really need Brandon Aiyuk standing next to the damn owner, right? The owner's hearing this from the alum. How does that make him feel? Yeah. And then all of a sudden, August 10th or 12th, that Adam Schefter wants to talk about, the timeline the Niners want to implement, right?
Yeah, they started feeling stupid.
All of a sudden,
got cold feet.
He has a $30 million offer on the table. Yeah. What happened was shout out to Kyle Shanahan, shout out to Jed York, who stepped in. Both of those two guys stepped in, and they knew that they needed this guy on the roster because he's their best receiver. I thought when I had heard that, I was like, that's hilarious that Jed York was standing next to some of the alum and they were talking publicly out loud to each other. And they like kind of looking at Jed like, what are you going to do about it, Jed? Because that's your receiving core right now and it's struggling. So to me, I find that funny because they could have got it all over with. But the good things, right? Let's talk about positives, right?
Wait, but I do have one more negative. Can I get it out?
Really go ahead.
And we've touched on it when we're talking about this August 10th, August 12th thing, but it was petty, I feel like, at best for the 49ers, right? They immediately announced the Brandon Aiyuk signing. And when you think that the social media team is going to be posting celebration pictures, they're going to be talking about getting him in to sign his contract and take the photos, his introductory, press conference, all those things. Instead, within less than, I want to say, 20 minutes of the bigger guys, I know that you got it an hour earlier, but the bigger guys announcing his contract, less than 20 minutes later, the 49ers put out a report. Oh, they didn't cave to Brandon Aiyuk's wishes. This has been the same deal that's been on the table since August 10th.
And they did that. They did that
None of
through
CeeDee
the
Lambs, none of
media,
anything. What did they say?
and they did that through the media, not them personally putting it out, but they
Yeah.
did it through the media.
So what I'm like, to me, that's really bad vibe. Like, it feels like, I guess why I said negative is, and then his manager quote tweeted that and said, "This is factually incorrect."
It
But
was, and
the
I was.
cash still,
What's funny is I was getting
the
ready
money
to
still
actually
clears.
go attack them for it because when that happened and I saw it, I was getting ready. I was in a space and I had really just commented on it, and I was getting ready to go comment on that quote tweet Adam Schefter because he was wrong, and I was like, bro, and this whole time, like I told people in spaces on my show, I will tell you what side caved because I know the entire details of everything.
I guess
So far, what it looks like is the Niners caved. That's from what I've seen. Once I know guaranteed at signing, I will 100% know who caved.
I think the 49ers caved because of the deal that I've already seen. But to me, the second you make the decision that you are going to pay the player, then as an organization, your mindset, much like you brought up the Vikings, needs to be not, the Vikings didn't come out seconds after announcing Justin Jefferson's deal and say, yeah, but, we didn't offer him.
Let's not even talk about Justin. Let's not talk because Justin didn't have any negative like media, right? Let's talk about CD, right? Because Jerry Jones was in the media. CD went to the media a little bit. Like that was more. It's closer in line to the Brandon Aiyuk.
Once it was
They
done.
celebrated. Like so, that's what I'm saying. Like
you're supposed to, and we've seen this with the other players, right? Like this is not the first contentious contract negotiation that we've seen. We've seen this with almost or maybe literally all of their stars. Fred Warner.
Every big star has had issues. Every big star.
Bosa. So one, just by knowing that, you can say, okay, who's the common denominator there? It's the 49ers. So that might give you an insight into who's actually to blame for why these get derailed so much. But with all of those players who did have bad or like tumultuous times during the negotiations, once the deal was done, both sides acted like that didn't happen. Debo came out and was like, I don't know what you were talking about. I always wanted to be here. People were like, you were literally in a club. He was like, I don't even remember that. I've never been in a club in my life. I'm so happy to be a 49er. And the 49ers were like, fuck yeah, we got Debo, bitches. And same thing with Bosa. They were like, Nick Bosa, you almost sat out in a game. The season starts in 2 hours. What are you doing? How do you feel? And he was like, I love the Niners. Can't wait to be a 49er. The 49ers were like, yeah, we got Nick Bosa, baby. Celebrating both sides. It's like they get an amnesia and forget that happened.
I can tell you why it happened, though, if you want to know why it happened.
The 49ers made it clear they wanted you to know that they won on the negotiation side. And to me, I was like, that's petty on the 49ers. And does that automatically put a bad taste in Brandon Aiyuk's mouth, who this entire time has, every time he's been on a podcast or anything, when he's talked about this deal, he's talked about wanting to feel valued. And it's like, wow, you finally pay him. You give him a number where he feels valued monetarily, but then immediately you go in the media and kind of kick him, to be like, but you're still not on top. Yeah, we gave you what we want, but it's, don't take it that serious. We don't like it that much. It's like, dude, why do the 49ers, and I'm just wondering, does this carry in to the season? Like, is there contention?
No, it doesn't carry into the season. No. It won't carry into the season because at the end of the day, money talks, right? And once you squash everything, like, you try playing me, I try playing you. We got something done. All right, now the big picture is let's go get a Super Bowl. That's how both sides will see it. But the reason why this happened was because Perrar got taken to school with that Nick Bosa contract. Like, absolutely destroyed with that contract, right? So bad that when you look at the contract, Nick Bosa got every little detail he wanted on that contract. Nothing you could do. Like, truthfully, nothing you could do. The Niners didn't want to lose a contract this offseason. They didn't know Trent was going to ask for more money or ask for a new contract or whatever the case may be. So they didn't know they were going to have to cave or bow down or bend the knee to a player this offseason. They figured Christian McCaffrey would want money. So they kind of like, okay, we have money aside for that. Like, they weren't expecting anything of it. So it all comes down to the team not wanting to have lost a contract negotiation this offseason, losing one, and wanting to put to the public, and guys like fucking David Lombardi, guys like Schefter, who truthfully believe the Niners won this contract. Like, truthfully, they're sitting there like, oh, well, any way you could turn it. Like, bro, let's be honest, bro. It's okay to say the team lost a contract. It doesn't matter. You know what you should be saying? Cool, the team lost a contract, but they still have a top 5, top 10 player at that position on their team. They won at the end of the day. At the end of the day, you win when you keep a top 10 player on your roster. Unlike the freaking the Rams, because I know there's a lot of Rams fans in here wanting to talk a lot of talk today. Unlike them, they have a linebacker, right? Ernest. He just requested a trade. He thought he was going to eventually get a contract or eventually play out the year with them. They end up shipping him off, no contract. That's a lose-lose situation because they didn't get much capital for him. Lose-lose situation. Can we talk real quick about before we talk about this one? After this comment, we could talk about the Parag comment.
Okay, yeah.
About the lead.
We'll do this one first because I liked Wolverine kind of adding to what we're saying. Losing the contract shouldn't be the worry, and I agree. Obviously, to some extent, like. Unfortunately, I feel like this conversation really only applies to your star guys that you cannot let go. When it comes to, you don't want to lose a deal when you're signing a guy who maybe isn't worth it, but with a guy that you feel like is not only has lived up, has done well so far, but you feel like he's on the ascension, which is, I feel like the unique part about the Brandon Aiyuk signing is with a lot of these stars that the 49ers have signed, they kind of signed at their peak, where I feel like if all things, knock on wood, health provides, I think Aiyuk can still be on the ascension with Brock Purdy as some of these older veterans either get less targets because they're older and the body isn't as agile, or they start leaving the team and going somewhere else because the 49ers can't afford to keep them anymore and they don't want to take pay cuts. Brandon Aiyuk is only going to become more important to this offense if Purdy has a good year, which they're expecting he will, or the same year as last year, and they end up signing him. That's a dynamic duo, Brandon Aiyuk and Purdy, that can be the new core. We've often talked about, is the Super Bowl window closing, but when we're saying that, we're referencing this core that has grown, the George Kittle, the Deebo Samuel. We've already seen some of the defensive players go, but you have one more year with Ward, stuff like that. But the 49ers are trying to make it so there's no like stark drop off where there's a closed window. They want to smoothly go into a new window. And I agree that when it's a player like Aiyuk or any star, the only thing you should be thinking about when it comes to winning the deal is I get to keep this star on my team. So I wanted to say I agree with that. And then someone was talking about
the leads. Parag the lead. What's crazy is, no, it was actually the leads. It was the next comment, maybe right after the one you were just talking about. What's crazy is, well, you can just leave that one up because it's about Parag. So Parag with the leads, actually, he's not doing it over there. He sold all of their best players.
I went to a dinner a couple weeks ago and there was these like older people there and drinking wine and stuff, and they had a thick London accent. Turns out the guy is a fan of the Leeds team. And he's like, they suck. He was like, they're so
sold
bad.
All their best players. He didn't want to pay them, so he sold them to other teams, bro. Like, his mindset is, so all right, for example, if the Niners if they truly were to let Parag run the 49ers, right? Like, what he would do with this team is, y'all know how Oakland, like the Oakland A's, like they've ran Moneyball for years, right? Like that, their mentality is Moneyball. You could get 4 players for the cost of one really good player and get that production, right? He would do the same thing because he's doing it with leads. He does it with 49er contracts. He doesn't want to pay you, so he would rather try to get the best contract done that looks good for the player, but it has a 2-year out. And that's where he's gonna get these players. That's where players are like, nah, you better give me a big ass signing bonus then. Yeah,
Especially
like nah.
especially now after what they've done with Eric Armstead. You
Also,
just saw them with Juice Check. Like, I feel like these veterans who have been on the team and dealt with Prague a little while, like you were saying, all the receivers talk, all the 49er players talk. They understand how Prague sets up these negotiations and how he goes into it and what his objective is. You know what I mean? Like maybe back when he was hired, whatever he was doing was innovative. But now every team in the league has a guy who manages the cap, and other teams don't seem to have as much offseason drama as the 49ers do.
yeah, absolutely. So just go into positives, right? Obviously, positives.
Yes.
Like it's a positive day, right? Like Niners signed their receiver one. Let's talk a bit about Brandon Aiyuk.
Yeah.
Do you think Brandon Aiyuk hits over 115 targets? Obviously, the reason why I say 115 is because 2022 he had 115 targets. Last year he had 105 and had a bigger year. Does he get more targets with this big contract, or let me give you two options: he hits more, or
you better.
They use Debo extensively. They run Debo as much as they can in the quick game, in the run game, and they kind of wear Debo down. So when he does have a great year, next offseason they could trade him before the draft, and now their best receiver has a little more thread on his tires for the following year.
Okay, that's an interesting way to look at it. I didn't anticipate I do think that Debo will have or try to have a big year. He's obviously came into camp in incredible shape. We saw the last time he was in a contract year, he looked like the best player, not only on the 49ers, but in the league. The only thing that's scaring me a little bit is Debo really didn't impress me in the preseason. He was getting, not able to get open against like third stringers on the Raiders who like literally didn't make the team after the cutdown. What?
He was not be able to create separation from a car salesman.
Yeah. And so like I'm not trying to down him because maybe that's just not his game. And I don't think it ever has been his game, and we've seen him have an incredible year. I don't know. I mean, I'm starting
also, if we're gonna talk about that play, it was also a high pass.
It was a high pass. I agree.
Debo was like a foot off the ground, so it's like
I pushed back.
You're throwing it high to a receiver who can't really move like that. And you're asking him to go up and get it. Like to me, I was like, bad pass to the wrong player. That should be looking another way to find someone else, because that's just a recipe for disaster all on its own from entire beginning.
I agree. But to answer your question, I pulled up this comment because I agree. With this. I think that they will probably ride Christian McCaffrey a little bit less than they did last year, obviously, because I felt like they got really obsessed with breaking that touchdown record goal with him. And I think they started overutilizing him. I remember a couple games they were literally winning like 30 or 35 points against other teams that had like 10. And in the final quarter, Christian McCaffrey was still in because they wanted to get him a touchdown and shit. So hopefully they won't do anything reckless like that again. And Jordan Mason gets a more even share of the targets to help try to preserve Christian McCaffrey more. So I think that will happen there. When it comes to the passing attack, I think that they're, depending on the scheme, they're going to want to utilize Debo, especially if he's in good shape. But I don't know. I watched that receiver show, and even in games that Debo did well, Debo gets injured, even if it's not like multiple games he's out. He gets like small tweaks. It felt like every game of this receiver show where it showed the 49ers players. So he's always taking a play off just to catch his breath, whatever. So I think obviously Brandon Aiyuk is going to be out there and be more consistent than Debo is. Obviously, I'm assuming this could be wrong because we've never seen Aiyuk not train in a football program. Obviously, we know that he was training. But if he's the same old Aiyuk that we've always seen, where his main thing has been his consistency and health, health is health availability is the best ability. So I I agree with this comment. They're going to do whatever puts them in the best position to win. I do think if you start paying a guy $30 million, you can't have games where he's getting 6, 5, 4, 3 targets a game. That's they gotta pass a little bit more. I think your number was 115 targets.
Yeah.
I wanna go on record. I want to say that they break that. I think Shanahan and Brandon Aiyuk are both going to be responsible for that. Obviously, Shanahan's going to have to call Brandon Ayuk's number more, but Brock Purdy is going to need to feel comfortable getting the ball down the field and looking for Aiyuk when he can and trusting Aiyuk, even though they didn't work out this offseason. He needs to be reliant on Aiyuk and really see him as his number one man. Yeah. So do you think that Kyle will adjust his scheme? Like, will you answer your own question? Because I want to be optimistic and say yes. I think they're going to do whatever it takes to win. But I think a part of that for the 49ers is spreading the ball around more and moving it through the air more. So getting Aiyuk more involved. I've always thought that the 49ers, that Kyle Shanahan can get too drawn in on one player. So if he can start targeting Aiyuk more, it opens up the offense more, which helps the defenses from crashing down, which with this offensive line is going to be very necessary. So I want to be optimistic. I want to say, yes, I think Brandon Aiyuk gets 115, maybe even a little bit more, but 115 minimum targets this year. But that will require a little bit of a system change. Do you think that Kyle Shanahan will do that? Jesus.
I think when you look at it, right, like I've always been saying I want Brandon Aiyuk to throw the ball more, right? It's a pass happy league. Go more 11 personnel. That's why I said you don't really need juice chick. And you could go more 11 personnel, throw the ball more. You have Cowing. Yeah, I think Cowing is going to be a good receiver. I think he's better than Pearsall. Said it the night of the draft. I'll say it again right now. I think he's a better receiver in terms of route running. I think he's gives you a different element. Put him in the slot next to Brandon Aiyuk, and I think that's going to be some fun route running. I'm excited about that. So I think you should pass the ball more. I've been saying it all off season. Kyle needs to evolve.
Purdy is capable. Like they made
the thing is like if you believe in Purdy, as a fan, if you believe in Purdy, you should be saying throw the ball more. Right? I know a lot of fans who like they believe in Purdy, like no, let Kyle run his offense. Like no, if you believe in Purdy, throw the effing ball more. For example, I'm on the side of I'm holding out judgment. Like I don't want to crown Purdy after seeing one full season of him. Right? Now, I think he's top 12 quarterback from last season, like what he did. But I think he's good enough to throw the ball more, put more trust in him, have him throw the ball more. You should not be throwing the ball. There's a stat, shout out to Rich Madrid. Within the first 3 quarters, the Niners threw the ball 17th in the NFL. That's not good enough when you have an elite quarterback and elite wide receiver.
You're paying this much money to all those weapons? No.
Yeah, it's not good enough. Now, when you put in the variety of the entire game, Niners were at 32nd, obviously, because when you're up in games, you run the ball, try to kill the clock and stuff like that. So that's why they were 32nd. So if teams would have been better, Niners would have been competitive games, they'd probably throw the ball 17th in the NFL. Now, where I think this benefits Brandon Aiyuk, it also kind of hurts him. Because even though I think he should be hitting around 130 targets, so you give him another 30 targets on the year, I think they need to target George Kittle a ton more. I don't get why. So, for example, your top 2 in the passing game, right? Top 2 in the passing game should be George Kittle or Brandon Aiyuk, George Kittle. And then me personally, I'm going to Jawan Jennings as your third receiver and using Debo as a gadget type. Now, I get it'll probably be Debo, but there's no reason George Kittle's only getting 90 targets when you have Brock Purdy as your quarterback. To me, that is a mistake. And I think George Kittle's numbers should go up. Yeah. But how do you deviate those targets? Are you going to throw the ball more? Or if you throw the ball 100 times more in the year, you could give both of them another 30 targets, right? And it doesn't really hurt you because now you could keep Debo getting his targets, Cowing or Pearsall getting their targets, and Jennings. But if you throw the ball the same,
Brock Purdy start throwing more interceptions if they throw the ball 100 more times.
I'm not going to comment on that. Yeah, that's a topic for another day. But when you look at if you throw the ball more, right, and I think they should, you have another 100 targets to spread around. 30 for Kittle, 30 for BA, or 40 or 50 for BA, right? Like you have those targets to give to spread it around. If you keep the same, I think it hurts. I think it should hurt Brandon Ayuk's target share because if you have another receiver in Pearsall or Cowing who are legit receivers as Kyle thinks, right? Pearsall, I'm not sure. Cowing, I think he could get open. So if you have those receivers creating separation, targets are going to be taken from them a little bit. But I don't think that's a negative thing for Brandon Aiyuk because film showed Brandon Aiyuk allowing other players to get open in the Super Bowl. They were playing a lot of two-man on Brandon Aiyuk. What that is they had their corner and they're having that safety. They're having them shadow, playing a lot of that two-man game, and it allowed guys underneath to get open. So I think that's something that benefits the 49ers. Attention going to Brandon Aiyuk. Okay, now we're going to dump it off another spot. So it's going to be interesting. I don't know why the Rams fans are excited. Like you guys have a good team, but like you guys have a big hole at linebacker. Your guys' roster, you guys have your best player on offense or second best player on offense being a kick returner. Like I don't even know what you're doing over there. So I don't know why you're so excited about the Niners.
Did you see that press conference where Sean McVay looked like really irritated?
He was pissed.
I've never seen him like that. I feel like he's always really good with the media.
Yeah, he was mad.
But we appreciate the views, but yeah, I don't think that the Rams are scaring the 49ers this year. Did you choose that they would the 49ers would sweep them, or do you think one?
It should be 1-1, man. That's a good team over there. Like as much as like I like to talk smack to them, they're a good team. They got the quarterback. They have Kawachipo. Don't say quarterback ACL tears, man. Don't be doing that. And it ain't funny. It ain't cool to wish injuries on any player. I know you're joking, but it ain't cool to even joke about it. I think they're a good team. I think they have losing. Honestly, in my opinion, I think them losing Ernest kind of hurts them in a way because their linebacking room is probably one of the worst. They're probably going to run out a rookie linebacker in Omar Spates, who went undrafted out of LSU, and the LSU on his way to Oregon State. So I mean, it's a good team, a good secondary. Depends on who's starting, who's hurt, who's not hurt. But yeah, it's weird. And his injuries not even have to do with his knee; it's his hamstring. So yeah. I don't get what you're saying. Like, when it comes of not wishing, I get he's old, but his injury is his hamstring, not his knee.
Kyle, we have everyone in here. You think the 49ers are?
We got Cars fans in here too. Jesus Christ!
Are 49ers winning the NFC West?
I mean, they should. I'm gonna do an NFC West breakdown probably on Monday or Tuesday before the season. But like when I look at it, it's like there's good teams in our division. I'm not saying like they're not good teams, but when you look on paper, right, the Niners have the best. They have the best team in the division on paper. It's not close. I think the next team that would come in line, I think the Rams are right there because they have the offensive line to keep Matthew Stafford healthy. Now their offensive line's a little bit banged up.
Now I have a question for you. It was asked at the end of my show yesterday, but I was closing up my show. Someone said, does this mean, referring to the Brandon Aiyuk deal, that Debo is traded next offseason?
Yeah. Traded or cut post June 1st.
You think, yeah?
Yeah. I mean,
they were open to doing it this year, right? Supposedly,
they were willing to do it because they understand the bigger picture. You can't have two big-time star players at that same position getting paid that. Like it doesn't help their roster building. It doesn't help their team. Too many mouths to feed isn't good for an offense. He'll be 29 in the offseason, which makes him very tradable. So if you trade him before the draft, you take 15.
An influx of Rams fans. I can't name a dude on the defense of the Rams.
Man, their defense is solid. It's like I told you last time. You and I talked about it. Their defense is a bunch of young.
You actually could, but you're like a scout. That doesn't count. Most casual fans could not name a guy on the Rams defense.
But I don't think I don't think the Cards are gonna. I don't think the Cards are gonna beat the Niners. The Rams might split. Seattle might split. But outside of that, like when we're looking at everything,
I think the Cards could be exciting with Kyler Murray and that new wide receiver.
And
they're the
MHJ.
thing that I'm saying about the Rams though. They have no defense. So
yeah, like the thing is, the Rams will have to try to be a high-powered offense until their defense could go ahead and relax. Defense could calm down because their team has good players, but it's a very young defense. That's where I see them. They're a very young defense, and can you compete at that high level as a young team? Because they have a lot of young players, first and second year players playing with no Aaron Donald. Who's going to be that leader on the defensive back end? Who's going to be the leader on the defense in general? No linebacker. I mean, you just lost the captain on defense. That hurts the team. Like people, even though a lot of the Rams fans are like, well, he wasn't even that good. He was your guys' best linebacker. He was a captain on the team. So like, let's be honest here.
I think McVay is good. I'm anticipating I don't think they'll do poorly, but maybe I could see them splitting. I would hope not with the 49ers and all the money that they've invested this offseason, this being an all-in year for them. I think they should sweep the Rams. I also want you to, I agree with Wolverine here because you just said something casually. You just were like, oh, blah, 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 and then carried on with your sentence. And I was like, I disagree. But why would I don't think the Seahawks are going to win either.
Seahawks are good.
Next year?
Yeah, Seahawks are going to be a good team.
No, they're not. I guess
okay. You're saying they're not. People in the chat, and you're saying they're not. Explain why they won't be good.
I didn't think they were that good last year, and I think it's going to
be
like
was shitty. Last year, coaching was terrible.
I know, but I feel like normally the first year that you're coaching, you don't do well right away. There's like an adjustment where your scheme has to take over and everything.
The thing is, their offense better. Their offensive coordinator by far. One of my favorite offensive coordinators from the college game. Coming over, bringing that college offense. And it's not necessarily a college offense because he likes to run the ball. He likes to do things right. Runs the ball, spreads you out. He makes life easy on his quarterback. Michael Penix didn't go crazy for no reason. Their running back didn't run up for over 1,000 yards for no. Like he is a damn good offensive coordinator.
Gino cries when he sees Nick Bosa on the field.
The thing, he's gonna make it easier on him. He's gonna give him answers.
And then throws the ball.
He's gonna give Gino answers. He's gonna give. The thing is, when you give a quarterback the answers to what's happening, it makes it easier on him.
This is gonna be the offensive coordinator. This is the answer, and then Gino's gonna be like, "I got it." And against other teams, he's gonna be like, "Doing good," and then he's gonna go to the 49ers, and they're gonna be like, "This is the answer," and he's gonna be like, "Got it." And he's
okay. What about when
do this thing that he does on the ground, and then Gino's gonna go like that.
What about McDonald? What about when he lines up in a lot of press man and he's blitzing the Niners and stopping the run game like he did when he was with Baltimore with that game plan? It brings that game plan straight over.
Yeah, well, I don't love thinking about that. I guess you're right.
Right? Like this, they're saying like they could easily split a game with us. They have the coach who dialed up the perfect game plan.
Supposedly, Tom Jensen, he writes for SI. We do a show together.
Oh yeah.
He lives up in Seattle, and he was like, "No, they're gonna lose in October because it always rains in October, and Brock Purdy can't throw in the rain."
Yeah, and that's another factor too. Like, so they have a good, and honestly. Man, oh man. You know what matchup I'm most excited about when we do play the Seahawks?
Which one?
I'm their defensive tackle. Why cannot Byron Murphy. Byron Murphy versus Dominic Puny, or Byron Murphy versus Banks. But if they match him up one-on-one with our centers, oh my god. So I was at a scouting seminar recently, and they put his film on they're like, while we're watching his film, and multiple of the scouts that were talking about him were like, we highly viewed him as like an Aaron Donald light, like he could become Aaron Donald. That's how good he is, and I'm just like as a Niners fan, I'm like, damn, we can't get away from an Aaron Donald. Like,
don't say that. Don't say that. Don't say
like
that.
he's good.
So far, Pooney has been better against the pass than the run, which is not typical for the 49ers offensive linemen. Usually they're better against the run than the pass. But I'm not totally against it because I think the 49ers need more protection in that way. Do you think that Pooney will develop more in the run game this offseason when he did his press conference?
I hope so.
Attributed it to the position change?
I hope so.
I hope so.
That video, or like the guys in the studio mask. I hope so. I mean, yeah, right. Cause like, obviously the steps, the movement and everything like that, obviously your first step, angles from the guard standpoint, he's gotten better from week 1 to week 3. And I was like, right away, week 1, I was like, whoa, we got to fix things, right? Like I was on your show, I was on, and I said right away, week 1, he has to fix things because that run game, he was getting blown off the ball. Week 2 looked a lot better. Week 3, I was like, whoa, he understands angles. Like he understands the process of getting to angles from the guard spot. So I think as the season goes on, we're going to see him develop, taking those same angles, taking the same steps. So I think he's a fast learner. You saw it from week 1 to week 3 in the preseason. And why the Niners give him a lot of reps. So I think we'll see him develop as a run blocker. Now, I don't know if it'll ever be like an elite run blocker, but you don't need an elite run blocker. You just need someone to be able to get to a spot, do his thing. In pass pro is what we need to see him be an elite, right? Like that's where you want to see your offensive lineman be elite.
I have one thing to say about the offensive line, but I know you're going to touch on that on your own channel. Really quickly, though, I want to ask you, since we're talking about the offensive line, and I hadn't talked to you since the final roster cut down, but why did the 49ers choose to keep Spencer Burford, who feels like they're going to end up letting him go?
Who says they're letting him go?
Well, they chose to keep him, but it feels like
cut starters.
Is he going to be a starter?
Why can't he start at left guard if Banks goes down? Why can't he start at right guard if Pooney goes down? He was in line to start. If it wasn't for his hand injury, he was in line to start.
This guy sees where I was going. I was going to say, why did they choose to lose Kingston? He was picked up by the first waiver team, so obviously he had some potential. How did you feel about this? Was it the right move? Obviously hard move, but you didn't feel like it was a major loss?
No, they should never have drafted him.
Oh,
to be honest with you, they should have. And I said this draft night, not a good player. Film wasn't there. Niners kind of drafted him kind of off of measurements and stats that he, like the combine stats that he had, his short shuttle. They were kind of hoping that he would be able to be a guy who could develop. Now PFF had him graded great, right? When I watched, I didn't agree with the PFF grade. A lot lower on it than on my end. Didn't think he was like that dude like people thought he was. Developmental guy for sure, but developmental guy you'd rather bring back on your practice squad. That's what the Niners are trying to do, bring him back to the practice squad. A team with a scouting department who goes off of high analytics. That short shuttle, they picked them up. So I think Burford will probably be your left guard the next year, like Kawachitu says. Probably be your left guard starting next year at a cheap cost. They probably let Banks walk to keep someone else. Burford could also play left tackle in a crunch if needed, right? So for me, it's not that big of a loss to lose Kingston. Now, is it for me? The only thing that made sense to keep him around is he drafted him. But why are you drafting players? For example, Ben Barch, Exhibit A. Okay, we'll talk about Ben Barch instead of comparing him to Burford and stuff. I don't think he's that good. I would put him in the category as Kingston, someone who should be on your practice squad. But if you drafted Kingston and you didn't draft Barch, why not try to stash Kingston on your roster? Obviously, they cut Ben Barch because he's been around the league for a couple of years. They cut him, brought him back, so it was easier to do that with the roster movement and stuff like that. But why are we keeping Ronnie Bell? Why not keep Kingston and then not have to bring Barch back?
I think that they did the Ronnie Bell move. It felt like, or maybe not, because maybe they would have known what they were going to do with Aiyuk, but it felt like a desperation. Normally they have 6 wide receivers on the team. if Aiyuk wasn't playing, maybe they just wanted 6 guys. Because I agree that
I think Ronnie Bell is
and preseason, every time Ronnie Bell got a target was a wasted target.
I think the Ronnie Bell situation has more to do with Pearsall than anything.
Can't they? I mean, obviously,
can Pearsall's shoulder go through week 1? Can he play in week 1? If not, why not just put him on the IR? Give him 4 weeks, another 4 weeks. Like he's already missed He's already missed all of preseason, all of training camp. Just let him get healthy at this point. You already have Brandon Aiyuk. You have Jacob Cowan, who should be a good punt returner, a good receiver for you. Why are we wasting time? Like that, I think is more so Pearsall situation, but
I think that's fair. Do you agree with the sentiment that it's okay that they seemingly so far are missing on Pearsall because they have Cowing?
No, because you shouldn't miss on first round draft picks like that.
That's like bad. The whole Jed York being like, we're just gonna pretend we're gonna
no.
We traded 3 first round picks for Brock Purdy. That's what happened. That's
no, it doesn't work that way.
No,
it doesn't work that way because let's look at it. Let's look at it because if you were planning like, oh well, we're just gonna miss on our first round draft pick anyways. Let's just make this young guy Ricky Pearsall rich because he drafted him in the first round.
Get a lesson from all these Ram fans and go trade for talent with your first round pick at least,
or just draft the damn offensive tackle at 31, or draft the receiver who's better than Pearsall, AD Mitchell. Like I just thought they missed on Pearsall in general. Like even when they drafted him, I was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Why? Where? Who? Like it didn't make sense. Like it didn't. Honestly, like, no disrespect to Ricky Pearsall. I hope he's a great player for the Niners. Yeah. As a Niner fan, I hope he turns out to be something great. But taking my Niner fandom hat off, and like when I do my scouting work and everything like that, the people I work with, people I talk to, like, dude, they missed on him. Like he wasn't a first round draft pick. They should have. They were better off taking AD Mitchell, who had first round tape, and teams knocked him because of his maturity issue in terms of taking a couple of plays off and his diabetes that he has. They knocked him for that. That's why he fell around. Totally understandable. You're better off taking a player like that than a player who shouldn't have gone in the first round, or taking a player like Kingsley, who had first round tape, and a lot of people in the 49ers fan base who watch film say take Pearsall, or do not take Pearsall, take Kingsley Suamataia. Instead, they traded and hurt the damn Chiefs. Hurt the Chiefs. I cannot believe Dave Lombardi.
He's looked great all offseason, by the way.
Dude, that was just terrible.
If the 49ers and Chiefs meet up and he plays really good in that game, I need you to quote tweet that David Lombardi tweet.
Oh, I for sure will. I 100% will.
Hey, Romelio, we love you and appreciate your support, but same thing that we said to the guy earlier about Stafford. No wishing injury on players. Not saying you're doing that. Just let's keep it respectful. Now, to preview for your show, since we'll wrap this one up, I'll ask you one last question. Is Trent Williams playing against and this is the way I was going to phrase that, I was like, he could still be signed but not playing because it's so close to week 1. But I'm going to ask you, is Trent Williams on the team playing Jets week?
I plead the 5th.
No, we know that you.
I plead the 5th.
We know you have your sources, Marco.
I plead the 5th. I'll talk about it later. I don't want to like.
Yeah.
Nah, I'll just like as a fan, I think he'll be there.
Question.
As a fan, not any sources or anything. I think he's there. So I'll talk about later, like what I know about the contract and stuff like that, and what's going on. He'll be there.
I have a question.
That's my thoughts.
I have a question from like a maybe more like practical level, like not saying this will or will not happen, but if he is signed, does he have to do a certain amount of practices in order to be able to start, or do they just trust him to put him in there week 1? Like if they sign him 4 days before the regular season, they're fine playing him. Or
why not? They did it with Nick Bosa.
He wasn't out there the whole game. They did like a kind of weaving him in strategy, didn't they?
I mean, you might have to weave him in.
I don't think that's. What if they weave him in and when they're freaking?
What about you just start Spencer Burford out left tackle and see how it goes? What about you, start
Everyone's
Spencer
in.
Burford?
Trent will get paid. Hopefully he'll be there. I also hope he'll be there. But much like I was
The
frustrated with
thing
the
is,
Brandon
the
Aiyuk
more so than
situation,
anything, though, is if you have to weave him in, it's only because he's huffing and puffing. And I think he's a guy who's keeping himself in shape. Offensive tackle is a little bit easier than defensive tackle, in my opinion.
slip in there. Why
Yeah, I think so.
did you hear Kyle say the opposite in his thing? He said that he thought defensive tackle is the position that like you need the least preparation for. Felt like he was
I
putting a little pressure on
disagree.
Trent Williams in the media.
I disagree because you could
Maybe
simulate.
doesn't Trent like already take a ton of vet days and stuff?
Yeah, because he takes vet days on a regular, and you could simulate pass rush stuff as an offensive lineman. Like, right, like you could have someone, even though they're not good, you could have them simulate as a pass rusher versus you need to find an elite offensive tackle or an offensive lineman to do drills, right? Like he's probably called up due to he knows like, hey, can you come train with me? Can you rush the passer? He knows a lot of guys where he works out, where he trains. There's probably a lot of football players there, college guys that he knows and stuff like that, or junior college guys who, even though they're not great, it's all you need is a couple of reps. And I think he's able to do that. End of the day, with him, I think he'll be there. As a fan, I think he'll be there. When it comes to like other stuff, I'll talk about.
He's pushed through in order to play. Like he seems like a guy who wants to play. Now, obviously, he's determined, and maybe
He wants to retire.
It doesn't feel
maybe he's already told the organization he's retired, and the organization is like trying to convince him to come out.
And didn't go with their first round pick, and they drafted Ricky Pearsall. I'm gonna riot.
Maybe that's what happened. Maybe he's already told the Niners that he's retired, and they're trying to convince him to come out of retirement. And that's that's why Jed York got mad at that comment at the press conference.
Didn't they did that with Joe Staley, right? Didn't Joe Staley tell them like, hey, I want to retire, and they like tried to negotiate with him?
Please wait until we figure something out. We'll try to pay you.
That's scary.
Wait. And then they traded for Trent Williams, and then that's when it was announced that Joe Staley was retiring.
Well, I don't love that news.
I mean, I'm not. No. It's not news.
No,
it's not news. It's not news. Hypothetically, right? It's not news.
I don't love that hypothetical. I'm going to do the optimistic fan thing and think that Trent Williams will be there, hopefully able to participate in all of week 1, because it feels very scary for Brock Purdy to be behind the 49ers offensive line without Trent Williams at any point for any amount of snaps this season. But everyone, make sure to like and subscribe to Marco. Once again,
I'll be talking about Trent on my show a little bit later around. Let me finish some work. So I have a couple things to do real quick at work, and then around 4 o'clock, 3:45, 4 o'clock. If I get enough work done real quick, I'll be going live to talk about Trent's contract situation.
Hell yeah! So
been texting my guy who gave me the Brandon Aiyuk gave me the green thumb. I could talk about the Brandon Aiyuk situation throughout the entire process. He gave me the green light that he that he was signed. I tweeted it out. Same guy I'm talking to regarding the Trent Williams situation. Same guy I always go to. So
not publicly.
No. I am not saying, and that's why hypothetically, I will talk about it later on my show on what I've heard about Trent's retirement. But he has not told Trent is not retiring. I'm not saying that. Please don't take it that way.
Yeah. I'm not saying it at all. I will say, just from a like backing the player standpoint, threatening retirement would be good leverage if he wants to get some extra money from the 49ers. I wouldn't be against a player doing that if they want to get their money. He could, and we've seen him do that before with Washington and with the 49ers, and last minute Kyle Shanahan hopping to step in. But anyways, everyone, like and subscribe to my YouTube channel because I would really appreciate it. And my goal is to get to 3,000 subscribers pretty soon. But most importantly, thank you to Marco for joining me, and make sure to like and subscribe to his channel. Like I said, he put out the Brandon Aiyuk news an hour before anyone else had it. So really cool on him.
You're the only person that had that the breaking news guy on your show. Only person that asked me to be on the show, by the way.
Let's go.
Shout out to you.
So everyone, make sure to tune into his show. later. Can't wait to hear what he has in store. Kenny came in at the buzzer asking who our CB3 is. Kenny, you're going to have to tune in to our next show because I'm cutting you off there. Marco will let you know on his show too. Thank you guys, everyone, for joining us. We really appreciate it. Even the Rams fans who, they got to celebrate in the comments because they're not going to be able to celebrate the games.
Ooh.
Oh, fire! My bad.